Michelangelo, painter, sculptor, architect, and poet. Michelangelo Buonarroti was born on March 6, 1475, in Caprese, Italy. Soon after he was born, Michelangelo and his family returned to Florence, the city Michelangelo would always consider his true home. Florence was full of art and culture that made many opportunities for Michelangelo to flourish in the arts. Michelangelo's mother died when he was 6 years old. Michelangelo was chosen as one of the students to attend school at Florence's Humanist Academy, which met in Medici's garden. His father worked for the Florentine government as a banker. Michelangelo's father did not approve of his interest in the arts as a career. At the age of 13, Michelangelo was apprenticed to painter Domenico Ghirlandaio, who was mostly known for his murals. A year later, his talent drew to the attention of Lorenzo de' Medici, who enjoyed the intellectual stimulation of being surrounded by the most talented men in the city. Lorenzo Medici was also so fond of Michelangelo, he even let Michelangelo have a room in his own home. A Pietà. Michelangelo was in Rome in 1498 when he received a commission from the visiting French cardinal Jean Bellairs, envoy of the King Charles VIII, to the Pope. The cardinal wanted to create a statue of a draped Virgin Mary with her dead son resting in her arms to be in his own future tomb. Michelangelo's delicate 69-inch tall sculpture had two intricate figures carved from one block of marble. This piece of work continues to draw many of visitors to St. Peter's Basilica more than 500 years after its completion. Here I have several photos of the sculpture itself. We have an overhead view, head-on, and some smaller features such as the feet and where her hand rests as she holds him. Michelangelo returned to Florence after some time, and in 1501 he was asked to make another grand sculpture made from marble. This statue would bring more attention to the Duomo, which was at one point known as the Cathedral of Santa Maria del Fiore. His inspiration as to how he would depict David was from the young David that was in the Old Testament. He would be powerful, spiritual, heroic, and energetic. The sculpture was considered by scholars to be nearly technically perfect. The statue of David still remains in Florence at the Galleria dell'Accademia, where it is a world-renowned symbol of the city and its artistic heritage. Here I have an up-close pictures of the statue of David's face, his hands, and you can see the delicate detail Michelangelo put into them, and also the front and back of the statue itself. Poetry. Starting in the 1530s and much longer after that, Michelangelo got interested in poetry. Only about 300 of his poems survive today. Many of the poems are about the philosophy of Neoplatonism, and that is the thought of the human soul is powered by love and ecstasy, and it can be reunited with an almighty God. The influence of poetry had come from the subject of intense discussion while he was a young boy living with Lorenzo Medici. The Sistine Chapel ceiling. In 1508, Julius called upon Michelangelo to come back to Rome after not being able to finish paying him for a previous project, to do a less expensive but still ambitious painting project. He wanted the 12 apostles on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, one of the most sacred parts of the Vatican, where new popes are elected and inaugurated. Instead of that, Michelangelo painted 12 figures, 7 prophets, and 5 sibyls around the border of the ceiling. He filled the center area with scenes from Genesis. The most famous Sistine Chapel ceiling painting is The Creation of Adam, where God and Adam outstretch their hands to one another. The project took a total of 4 years to complete. Here on the far right hand side, I have the entire ceiling itself. In the bottom, I have the most famous piece that is known, and that's Adam and God reaching out to each other. I also have several up-close photos of the prophets and a Sibyl that are surrounding the ceiling. A list of other works done by Michelangelo include The Last Judgment, which was done in 1541, Doni Tondo, which was done in 1506, Bacchus, which was done in 1497, The Conversation of Saul in 1545, The Torment of St. Anthony, which was done in 1488, and Cupid, which was done in 1496. In the far right-hand corner up top is The Last Judgment. In the far bottom left-hand corner we have Cupid. Right next to The Last Judgment we have the Doni Tondo. And in the top left-hand corner we have The Torment of St. Anthony. In the bottom center we have The Conversation of Saul, and in the bottom right corner, we have Bacchus. Unfortunately, Michelangelo died after coming down with an illness in 1564 at the ripe old age of 88, which was much older than most life expectancy from that era. A Pieta that he had sculpted in the late 1540s, intended for his own tomb, is on display at the Museo dell'Opera del Duomo in Florence, not very far from where Michelangelo is buried, at the Basilica di Santa Croce. Several fun facts about Michelangelo include that he was the second oldest of 5 boys: Leonardo, Michelangelo himself, Buonarrota, Giovan Simone, and Gismondo. Michelangelo was hit in the nose when he was a teenager by Pietro Torrigiano, a fellow art student at the Art Academy in Florence. The incident left him with a permanently crooked nose. In his old age, Michelangelo lived mostly as a hermit, hardly ever coming into contact with others, except when his work required contact. He lived in squalor even though he was a very rich man. Michelangelo was often unsatisfied with himself and his work. He was known for his sharp, critical, and bad temper. Thank you for being a part of my presentation, and I hope you have a wonderful day.